Basically giving a free lesson here on how to lose money tuning a car. So my shop is located in Southern Maryland, which is apparently the LS capital of the world. So a majority of the cars coming through here all have LS swaps, which makes this one a little bit unique as it has a Coyote motor in it. You may have seen this car previously on my channel, as it has been on the dyno 2 or 3 different times. And previously it had a small block Ford with a non-intercooled blower on it. This is a father-son project, which are always my favorite. And unfortunately, this one hasn't gone super smooth, as to my understanding, this is their first turbo project. So there are some things on this that I might have done a little bit differently, but either way, you got to start somewhere. This actually came in a few weeks ago, a few days ago, a few weeks ago. I can't keep track of time anymore, but long story short, it didn't go 100% smooth, as we had some things wired up wrong and dead battery. And even though they switched fuel lines and injectors and all of that type of stuff to switch from race fuel to ethanol, I guess the fuel pump was overlooked and we maxed that out pretty quick. So with all of that being said, we've gotten a majority of the kind of the baseline stuff sort of taken care of here, and hopefully today we'll just be turning up the boost. And since this is just a stock long block, we won't be going crazy with it. But either way, these Coyote motors are pretty cool because they make a bunch of power with not a lot of boost. So let's see what we can come up with. So obviously with the fuel pump issue, we were dropping fuel pressure, but outside of that we had a couple of other problems too that I don't think were resolved since last time. Like I say, they picked the car up and brought it back, but this is just kind of like how this sort of goes sometimes. But boost would make like 3 or 4 psi on the gate, and by the time we got to like 7,000 RPM, it was down to like half a pound. And once we start introducing CO2, kind of the same thing was happening. It would, make 10 pounds for a little while and then drop to, I don't remember what it was, like 3 or 4 up top. So I'll show you the dyno graph on where we left off, and you can see that I think like 5,500 RPM or something, it already starts laying over. So I don't really have much control over that, and I can manipulate the boost control a little bit to work around it. So we'll see what we can do there. I did not have an opportunity to mess with the cold start and things like that. So starting up here this morning, actually it was pretty terrible, along with the acceleration enrichment. So I think I got all that stuff straight. And these two things are probably kind of going hand in hand, but this has, I think it was 1200 cc injectors, but if you enter the data for those injectors, what they came with as far as the flow rate and dead times and all of that, like the car wouldn't even run. And this thing wants an astronomical amount of fuel at idle, and then once we get past idle, things kind of normalize a little bit. So the injector data is kind of skewed. Took a couple of custom tables to get it to idle the way that I wanted it to, and yeah, we're just kind of like got some stuff going on, and in order to kind of figure out what we got going on and how much of an issue it is, we kind of just got to push forward and see if we hit another roadblock. So we're all set up on the dyno now. I'm going to warm it up again, and we'll make some pulls with the CO2 turned off. So here's the dyno sheet from last time. You can see it just started rolling over super. Started rolling over super early, but this is only at about, I think it was 10 pounds of boost. So giving us a little tiny turbo, the power numbers are stout. Let's see, it's cooled off basically all the way. And then once you finally did get it up and started and running, any type of like throttle input made it run pretty bad. So let's see, it was all running good before I shut it off and let it cool off. So hopefully it's good now. Way better. That's dead nuts. I'm totally happy with that. It's like a whole new car. It's about 300 degrees in here. I think what I'll do is I'll let it warm up and probably make a couple pulls on gate and just make sure that the shape of the fuel curve is going to be the same now that we have, or should have, consistent fuel pressure. And then we'll start filming again once we turn the CO2 on. Alright, made a bunch of runs and our fuel pressure isn't dropping. It makes like 0.3 psi at higher RPM with no CO2. So I turned the CO2 on a little bit just to get it to make some boost. And basically I had to start all over on the fuel table now that we actually have fuel pressure. So I think we have it to a point now where it's in the ballpark. So turn the CO2 up a little bit and trying to get a little creative with the boost control to see if we can't actually like maintain a flat boost curve. So I guess we'll start recording this process now. And it seems like every person that exists in the world has all like stopped by and wanted to watch while I'm doing this, which is one of the most aggravating and annoying things that the world has to offer. So hopefully the random ass people coming by has now done it over with. Starts so much better now. Fueling looked good. Curious to see what the boost did. Made 726, so it must have maintained the boost a little bit better. So here it is on wastegate with there's basically no boost. Here's with a little bit of CO2, and then here's kind of matching up the CO2 from last time. $747, but it looks like it laid over even harder at max RPM, so let's check this log out. Alright, this is legitimately one of the most frustrating days I've ever had here with other people driving me nuts. There's 14,000 cars coming through here, motorcycles made 1,600 laps up and down the shit. So anyway, as you can see here, our fuel pressure, this green line here at the bottom, it's nice and solid now. Oil pressure's good, battery voltage, I wish it was a little higher, but it's holding steady. And we're just a little bit fueled up, got like a 3 or 4% correction, and then at higher RPM, it rolls over a little bit more. So I've already corrected all of that. You can see here, we peak at like almost 12 pounds of boost and drop to like 10. So what I'm doing with the boost control is working, but I need to get a little bit more aggressive with it. Our tip-in needs a little bit more fuel, but then we need to decay it out a little bit quicker because it goes pretty rich right here. So we'll play with that a little bit more. So I think for the next run, I'm gonna try and flatten the boost out a little bit better and probably throw a little bit more boost at it. Let's give it a shot. Was it 780? 782, so it picked up a decent amount of power, but it's still laying over up top. So we might have to get into playing the cam angle game. Check this log out real quick and kind of make a decision. There isn't really a whole lot to see here. Cell enrichment's way better. Fueling's a little bit closer. Boost actually is a little more stable, but I think hopefully we're just super under-timed. I started way low on this, so we're just gonna try a couple percent of a fuel correction, not much, but primarily we're just gonna try a little bit more timing on this one and see if it'll wake it up a little bit. Every pull somebody just shows up to watch. I just spent far more time than I care to admit moving both the intake and the exhaust cams to try and see if we can prevent this thing from laying over. And then it got to a point of me just kind of experimenting and playing around. Moving the exhaust cam, we could get power to tank significantly more. Going the opposite direction with it helped a little bit, and moving the intake cam did not do as much as what I'm typically used to. So I definitely think that there is something else going on, and considering how much boost was tanking at higher RPM without manipulating the boost control to make it better, those things are probably going hand in hand. So they wanted to make either 800 horsepower or stop at 15 pounds of boost, and judging by the looks of it, assuming it picks up some power with some more boost, we're probably gonna hit both of those things at right at kind of the same point. So let's turn it up a little bit. I'd like to say hopefully this will be the last run, but I doubt we'll get that lucky. Inconveniently enough, the battery's about to die. God damn it.
God damn son of a bitch!
Now it's just misfiring. plugs out of it. 15 pounds on the dot, and everything looks pretty good. So hopefully it is just plugs. Nothing else in the log jumps out as odd, so keep our fingers crossed. So I totally hit my breaking point yesterday. After being here all day and having 150 people come by and a million interruptions, car randomly starts misfiring out of nowhere, and each time I try to make a run, look out and there's people with their phones filming, and I just couldn't take it anymore. So called it a quits for the day. With the misfire, everything was great, and then it wasn't. Once we tried turning the boost up just a little bit and back the boost back down, and misfire is still there. So it might be a whole new problem altogether, so we'll see. And super frustrating because ultimately I needed to make one more pull with 2 more pounds of boost and everything would have been finished, but now we've carried over into the following day, which just puts me even more behind schedule. So I feel like this whole video has just been nothing but me complaining, but yesterday was probably one of the most frustrating days I've had at work in the last 3 years. So the good news is I don't think that today can be worse than that. All right, boost is down. The file that's in it is what worked perfectly fine. New plugs, tighter gap. If it still misfires, then there's something, you know, mechanically or electronically going on. A motorcycle that made 4,000 laps up and down the parking lot yesterday is back, so that's good. All right. Got my fingers and my toes and my nuts crossed. Hopefully everything will just work. So far so good. So now we'll bring the boost back up. Ah shit, I'm not gonna be lazy. Let me double check this log, just make sure everything looks right. Makes me so happy that that misfire went away. I was really stressing out about that. Log looked great, and all I did was turn up the boost a little bit. And this is when the misfire started. All right, this should theoretically put us right about 15 pounds of boost. Didn't misfire, but the power didn't really go up. All right, comparing the last couple of files and overlaying the last couple of dyno runs, I'm going to keep the boost the same, playing with some fuel, some timing, some targets, and I think it's kind of has to make 800 horsepower on this run, otherwise it's just not going to. So pulled the plugs, made sure that nothing's on fire there, and I think as long as it doesn't misfire, I don't see any reason in the world why this won't make 800 on this run. Let's give it a shot. All right, hoping and praying that this is gonna be the last run for the day. What to do? 843. Take a look at the log and we're more than likely going to consider that good. All right, so it made good power, came to life. A little bit what I was expecting on that one, but what I wasn't expecting is to just be roasting the converter. Basically giving a free lesson here on how to lose money tuning a car, but I kind of like just making things right, I guess. So anyways, I don't know if you could tell on the video or whatnot, but that car, or that dyno run was like significantly shorter than all of the previous ones. And the dyno chart showed that it made peak power at like, what was it, 4,300 RPM or something like that. But if you look here, we took it to like 6,300. So the engine is accelerating more than the axle. And also this green here is RPM. And basically once it ramps up, it's at 6,100. So this entire dyno run was basically like 300 RPM. This blue here is the boost. So right on the money at our 15-pound target. And if you saw what I had to do to manipulate the boost control to get this that flat, that wasn't actually all that easy. So I'm pretty happy with that. Oil pressure, fuel pressure, good. And it ramped up so much faster that we got a little bit of a positive correction here. And once we get past that, fueling's dead nuts. So I think what I'm going to do, if I was smart, I would just consider this good, but I think what I'm gonna do is run the fan, actually cool the trans off as much as I can, and maybe speed the dyno run up a little bit so I'm not loading the converter quite as hard, and make one more run and just see if we can't get it to grab and be able to just kind of verify everything one last time. But all in all, this one was kind of a pain, but it's there, and the trans brake wire is not connected to the ECU, so you can't set up the two-step and all of that good stuff. So I'll make one more run and hook that up, set up the two-step, then we can set up the boost timer and all of that good stuff, and at that point it should be ready to roll. All right, literally didn't change anything. We're just gonna see if we can get the converter to actually couple and not just flash the whole time. So let's see what it'll do. That felt and sounded better. Made even more power, 864. I think they're gonna be really happy with that. Thank God it all paid off. It really sucks when you spend a bunch of extra time on something and then you still kind of got to deliver bad news at the end. Let's check this log out. All right, this log is literally exactly the same as the other one, just significantly longer since the converter actually grabbed it. This is one of the problems with this stuff, is it went from trying to make 800 to making, what was it, 860, whatever it was, like another couple pounds of boost. I think we could clear 900 horsepower pretty easily. So you just got to draw the line somewhere, and we're right at the boost level that they wanted to run, so we're going to call it good here. We can always turn it up at the track later if need be, and they have plans on building a motor probably after this season. So I'd rather see them make it to the track than tear it up on the dyno. More power is fun until it doesn't run anymore. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. And sorry I was bitching so much. Yesterday was brutal.